Hey everybody, welcome to a new series. This is called The Math of Motion. Now when we're working with extended reality or even 3D games, a lot of the time what we're talking about is objects in space and somehow they'll be moving or rotating and we want to work with that information. Maybe we want to recognize a gesture if someone's moving their phone left and right or up and down. Or maybe we want to track like a tilt brush application. You want to track a controller and you want to sort of draw something depending on the way it's rotated. Maybe you want to do your own plane detection. You have a few points. You want to figure out what plane in 3D space, what two-dimensional plane they're all aligned with. These sorts of things. I guess we need to start thinking geometrically and working with vectors and being able to solve these problems as they come up. So I guess this series will just be it'll be a whole bunch of tools, a whole bunch of building blocks that we can use to solve any problems that we might come across. So I guess we're gonna start with some really simple stuff, like really simple stuff. I'm hoping that it's going to be so simple that we're going to build up some confidence. We're going to start to get used to things, get our heads around it, and then when we get to the more advanced stuff, we'll know more about what we're working with. We'll be a bit more comfortable with essentially working with vectors and a bit of trigonometry as well. And we'll sort of just go step by step. I wanted to mention that this series will be a little bit of if we start off with some geometry. Series is a little bit of a tangent with another series called The Nature of Code. The Nature of Code. That's by Dan Schiffman, and in that series he goes through a whole bunch of different really cool 3D graphics solutions and autonomous agents, all this sort of thing. It's really interesting, and it's all of it's got ties to things in nature, or naturally occurring phenomena. In that series he tends to go over some of the basics of vectors and some of the stuff that it's similar to what we'll be looking at, but what we're really going to focus on is applications in extended reality, really. I guess how things might apply to hopefully come up with some practical examples that people might use. So let's get started. Okay, so for each of the formulas that we'll be working with, we'll do a demonstration. We'll put it into code, see how to work with it and use it. I've got two recommendations if you're going to be having a go at implementing the formulas or playing around with them. One of the suggestions I have is use an environment that's really stripped back, that all you're working with is the formula itself. If you've got a game that you're working on, then maybe keep that separate until you're comfortable with the geometry that you're working with. You sort of really got a handle on it. It'll be easier once you put it back in with all the assets and everything else around it. The other suggestion I have is you want a really fast iteration time. You want to say, okay, as I type this in, what did that do? As I type that in, was that it? This sort of thing. And that's really helpful for learning quickly. Here's an example of a great tool for working with these sorts of formulas. It's called P5. It's a JavaScript library for drawing, really. You can do a lot with it. Let's say, for example, I want to draw an ellipse. I just go ellipse at position 200, 100. That's 200 on the x-axis and 100 on the y-axis. And maybe you want it to be 30 pixels wide and 40 pixels high. And then it draws it straight away. And see, that's really helpful for learning these sorts of things. It's got a reference page which can be really helpful for any questions you might have about how to use it. If you are coming from a Unity background and you're not very used to JavaScript, this is a really nice way of getting introduced to it, because it's, as you can see, there's not a whole bunch. There's no boilerplate or anything else you need to learn. You can just get straight into working with it. I'm not going to be using the web editor. I really like using VS Code a lot. So I'm going to be using everything on a local machine. I'm going to show you how I do that. So let's go ahead and create I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to have a project for each of the dimensions. So I have a 1-dimensional basics, 2-dimensional basics, and a 3D one. So anyway, I'll get started with the 1D one. So just make a directory. Basics 1D, cd into it. Okay, I'm going to show you how I've created this little tool just to if I've got like an idea for a prototype or something like that, I really want to get started straight away. Have all that boilerplate set up for me. So I'm just going to show you something I've been using. Just go npm I. This is it's in development stages. It's very early. npm I lazy pirate CLI. Lazy pirate CLI. This is for a few different things. If you're using like A-frame or what was it, Johnny 5, I think. Yeah, it's got a few different boilerplates you can use. Let's see. Yeah, Johnny 5. Even if you just want a simple a Webpack project. I'll show you how to use it. Let's say, for example, we wanted to just get our P5 boilerplate up. I would just go npx lazy pirate init P5. Okay, and it's gonna do a few little things. The first thing it's gonna do is it's gonna install P5 in this local project, and then it's gonna move a few files around and get what we call hot reloading ready, which means as soon as I press save, then we'll see the results in the web browser. Makes iterations really fast. The only difference between this and a more traditional way like for example in the web editor, the way of using P5 is it's using something called instance mode, where instead of global variables existing, where in the web editor is like ellipse da 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 da. This is the only difference here is we'd say we'll have an object called P, so P5, whatever you want, and you would say P.ellipse, for example. So that's how this sort of works. Okay, I'm gonna remove a little bit of this stuff. I'll just keep it like that, and now we're ready for the next episode.